And as teachers, I know this, we love to plan and we love to be in control. And when you step outside your comfort zone, you're anything but in control, right? And this can absolutely be scary, of course. But the magic happens when you can lean into the unknown, find the beauty in the scary chaos, and just move through it one step at a time. And once you come out on the other end, and you will, of course, you'll be stronger and a completely different person. You are listening to the Beyond the Classroom podcast, a podcast for burnt out teachers who know something's gotta give. After teaching for 14 years and feeling completely burned out for way too long, in May of 2022, I made a big decision and left the classroom. I now help burnt out teachers like you take back balance and joy so you can wake up every day loving your life. In this podcast, we'll explore who you are beyond the classroom, whether you're considering leaving or wanting to make changes so you can fall in love with teaching again. Either way, I understand what it's like to be living a life that looks fun and cute on the outside. You know, summer's off, playing all day, off at 2 o'clock every day, but actually feels miserable and draining. I'm your host and coach, Sandy Patterson, and I'm so excited to help you step into your fullest potential and believe in that potential to make an impact on the world, not just survive each day. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello. Welcome back to the Beyond the Classroom podcast. As always, I am so happy that you are here today, and I hope wherever this episode finds you that you are healthy and happy and well, and you've got sun shining on you. It is sunny here today in San Diego. Well, it's really usually always sunny here, but it's been raining for the past couple days, so it's nice to have the sunshine back out today. So, welcome back. I have talked to so many teachers over the past few months, and I've noticed something. I've noticed that there are 3 big categories of things that are stopping people from going after their dreams, because I get a lot of messages from teachers who are miserable and so fed up in their jobs and they're wanting to leave. And so I'll typically ask, well, what is stopping you? What is in your way? And for so many of these teachers, I've noticed that there are these 3 categories or buckets of things that are stopping them. So today I'm going to break down 3 of these big buckets and hopefully shed some light on each one so you can see the possibility if you feel like you're struggling and you have no other options. Now, please keep in mind that this episode is absolutely not to get anyone to quit their job or to leave teaching at all. That is not what this is about. The sole purpose of this episode is to help you get a little bit of clarity and to just get unstuck where you're feeling stuck. Because really, there's a way to figure anything out. And I hate seeing teachers feeling trapped because of these reasons. So we're going to explore them more and chat about ways to make small mindset shifts to get to your goals today. Okay, so bucket number 1, these are financial worries. Now, this one is all about money and finances. Many people are worried about money, and this is absolutely a legit concern. We need money to pay bills, to feed our families, absolutely. But we also need to remember that money is just a thing. We can use it, we can save it, we can make more of it, we can spend it, we can invest it, and money flows in and out just like the tide. And it's important to recognize that if you say you're stuck, you're going to remain stuck. So if you believe that you're stuck because of money, you're stuck because of money. But if you come at this from a different angle, from a place of just really genuinely trying to figure out a solution, you'll be able to move forward faster. And remember, this episode is all about looking at things from a different perspective just to see the possibility. And it was funny, I was talking to my husband and I said, yeah, I've noticed like teachers saying to me, they can't leave because they need the money. They need that paycheck. And he kind of laughed and he said, yeah, but do teachers really make that much money? And the answer to that is no. I don't care where you teach or how much money you make. You are absolutely not getting paid enough for the amount of work and stress you deal with every day. So the answer to that is no. Teachers do not get paid a lot of money. And think about this too. There are lots of different ways to earn money. And we're going to revisit this in just a second. But a lot of teachers will also tell me, well, I want to leave and I know I can do something else, but I need a paycheck to match my salary right now. And there's just nothing out there that will hire me, in the beginning to make that amount of money. So here's the thing with that. When you start something new, anything, you're not going to start off at like that highest tier, right? So you may have years of service in teaching and you may have moved over on that pay scale quite a bit. So yes, if you are going to find something outside of teaching, you may have to take a pay cut at first. So the question then becomes, how can you set yourself up with a cushion to cover that difference as you start something new? Right? So anticipating that you may have to take a pay cut, but in the end, it'll pay off because in so many positions outside of teaching, you can move up. There are bonuses, there are, raises, things that you can ask for in your job that you just can't do in teaching that aren't possible in teaching. The other thing with this is you also need to know your actual number, like the actual number, to either feel A, comfortable, or B, just enough. So knowing that number of how much you need every month financially is very helpful. And a lot of people don't know this actual number, but really it's just math. And we're all teachers, so we can figure out math, right? We just don't want to because this piece of it can be scary because you're scared of what you're going to find out. But it's also very enlightening and freeing to have a true understanding and target of that number where you need to be each month, because then you know exactly what you're playing for. And it's not a guessing game or a fingers crossed game or a hoping game. It's this is how much I need and this is how I can make that happen. And I always said that if shit really hit the fan when I left teaching, and little side note here, for me personally, when I decided to leave, I knew I was going to need enough money saved up to cover me for 3 months. Like that is just where I felt comfortable. So I had saved up a cushion there to last me 3 months that if I wasn't doing anything, I would still be able to pay the bills and, feed my kids and all that. But that, of course, is going to be different for different people and different situations. Some people might say, I want a cushion of 6 months or I want a cushion of a year, whatever it is. You just have to decide on that number. But anyways, I said, if shit hits the fan, I can always go work at Starbucks or Trader Joe's. And side note, my husband works at Trader Joe's and he gets paid more than I ever did teaching. And I live in California, so I did have a decent teaching paycheck. So I'm just throwing that out there. And I could talk about this for days. They're so good to him at Trader Joe's and they're good to all of their employees. And if on an off chance he ever brings work home with him, the next day, they will actually make him leave work early to make up for it. I was shocked when he told me this. I remember the first time he told me this too. I'm like, what are you doing home early? Why are you here? And he told me this, and I'm knee deep in report cards and emails and prepping stuff. And I was like, I think I probably started crying because I was like, oh my gosh. You get it. So yes, money is a valid factor to take into consideration. However, there is a mindset shift here that you can make in regards to money. Instead of, I can't make money or I can't leave teaching because of money, how about asking yourself, what other ways are there that I can financially contribute to my family? Or how can I set myself up to feel comfortable as I make this change? Now, another piece of this bucket is retirement. People are scared to lose their retirement. And just to clarify, no matter where you live, anything you've contributed to your retirement remains yours. They don't take it away and it doesn't just disappear. What you choose to do with it after this is up to you. Now, again, I am not a financial expert, but I do know people who can help you with this. And there are so many things that you can do with this retirement. You can invest it, you can move it, you can take it, you can let it sit there, you can switch it around. I don't know all the fancy words for these things, but I know that these are all options. And I do know that there are very smart people that know what they're talking about, unlike me, that can help you come up with a plan for your retirement. And there are also lots of ways to contribute to your retirement. on your own. When I told my financial advisor that I was nervous about like the retirement piece, he like looked at me like, well, why are you nervous? What are you nervous about? Like, you can just contribute to it on your own if you're working for yourself, or your new employer will have options. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's true. So here's another thing with Trader Joe's too. My husband has like triple the amount in his retirement working at Trader Joe's. So there's that too. But just know that you have options. You just have to be willing to find them and be open to them. Also, this podcast episode is definitely not an endorsement for Trader Joe's, even though I know it sounds like it. So keep that in mind too. Okay, bucket number 2. This is logistical things like benefits and health insurance. And these are absolutely, again, legit concerns. Health insurance is something we need. And for some people, it's an option to go on a spouse's or family member's insurance. For others, that's not an option, and your family is relying on you to provide that for your family. But before this becomes the make or break and the determining factor for you staying in a spot where you're exhausted and miserable, let's talk about options here, because again, you do have options. So first off, again, I'm going to repeat this again. I am not an expert in any of this. This all just comes from a good old Google search and some digging around and research and asking around. So there are other ways to get health insurance, right? There are private plans. There is COBRA. Depending on what state you're in, there are private healthcare plans. You can even get insurance. I didn't know this. You can get insurance from a broker. I didn't even know these people exist. But there are options. And yes, these benefits, again, may be more expensive, and it will vary from person to person and state to state, but you have to weigh the cost here. It's the difference between staying in a spot where you're absolutely miserable, or you're choosing to pay more for a period of time while you figure out your situation and come up with a plan. And keep in mind, whatever you end up with, this isn't necessarily permanent. You won't be in that same situation forever. If you have to pay a certain amount for a period of time, you can factor that into that number that we talked about earlier. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have to continue paying that forever. Your situation will change. However, it won't change if you don't do anything about it, right? And like I said, at this point, it's the difference between that amount of money and your sanity, basically, right? Or staying in a position and in a spot where you're just absolutely miserable. So just keep in mind, again, that there are options. You have options. Now, bucket number 3 is fear of the unknown. And this is probably the biggest one that teachers have told me about, that they're just scared. And this is a valid and legit concern. Of course, it's scary thinking about making a huge change in your life. And fear of not knowing what's next, this one is all about mindset. And when it comes down to it, this one is going to bleed into those other 2 buckets as well, because this will stop us in our tracks, and then we can not make up excuses, but we can use those other 2 buckets as excuses to not move forward. And it's the fear of the unknown and not knowing exactly what's going to happen. And as teachers, I know this, we love to plan and we love to be in control. And when you step outside your comfort zone, you're anything but in control, right? And this can absolutely be scary, of course. But the magic happens when you can lean into the unknown, find the beauty in the scary chaos, and just move through it one step at a time. And once you come out on the other end, and you will, of course, you'll be stronger and a completely different person. And there will become a tipping point where the fear of staying outweighs the fear of stepping into that uncomfortable space and that fear. And when you get there, that's when you know that an immense amount of growth is about to happen. And does that make it any easier? No, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. I also hear a ton of people saying that they're not qualified for anything else. And this is a story you're telling yourself, and it's simply not true. I am a firm believer that if you can teach, you can do anything. I mean, seriously, you can manage 25, 30, 35, in some cases, kids all day long, and that is not easy. That's got project management written all over it. You know how to design and deliver lessons and curriculum. Well, that's instructional design. You deal with crazy, angry parents constantly. That's customer service. So it's really just a matter of looking at things differently and seeing how those skills that you've already accumulated can transfer over into other different positions. You are qualified for a ton of things, and you're a teacher, you're a lifelong learner. So you're willing and you're quick to learn new things. And yes, you might not be qualified right off the bat to do some things, but there are a lot of things you are qualified for. And just the fact that you're willing to learn new things will speak volumes. I spent all of those years in school and all of this money on my degree and on my credential. That's something else that I hear a ton. And yeah, so you did. Does that mean you need to be miserable for the rest of your life? No, it doesn't. It does not mean that. You have options. I also get, what about the kids? What will happen to the kids? What about the kids? We're in this for the kids, right? This also stems from fear and guilt. It's often fear of what other people will think of us and that guilt that you're giving up on your students. It's not giving up on the students. There are plenty of other ways to make a difference in people's lives outside of the classroom. It's just a matter of being okay and comfortable with putting yourself ahead of others. And as teachers and women, we are clearly taught that the concept of putting ourselves first is wrong and selfish. And that's just not true either. And remember, teaching is a job. You are an employee and you are replaceable. My therapist and I had a big conversation about this when I was getting ready to leave the classroom because I felt so incredibly guilty and I had a really hard time of letting go. I've talked about this before, but I felt like I was giving up on the kids, giving up on myself, giving up on everything that I had worked for. And she told me, she said, Sandy, you've made a difference in hundreds of kids' lives and their families over the years. And 10, 20, 30 years from now, some of them may still remember you. Some of them will probably continue to appreciate you. But do you know who will look back in 10, 20, 30 years from now, and you'll 100% know that you've made a difference in their lives? It's your family. And this hit me so hard because it is absolutely true. I was sacrificing myself and my family was paying the price. And I was simply done settling and believing that truth that I had told myself. So I changed the story. Other common things I hear quite often too from teachers in this fear, guilt bucket are, I keep applying for jobs and getting turned down, and the market is so saturated with the teachers leaving the classroom, no one is going to hire me. And yes, of course, this is frustrating. Of course it is, to send out application after application and either not hear back or get that no. But with this one, the only way that you'll fail, the only way that you won't get that one yes that you need is if you quit. Now, all of this, again, is not to get anyone to quit their job or anything like that. It's not to talk anyone out of teaching at all. I just wanted to bring to light a lot of the things that are stopping us from doing big things that are actually figure-outable. And a lot of this is mindset work, mindset shifts you can make in order to continue to move forward and get yourself unstuck. Because remember, if you believe you're stuck, you are stuck. But if you believe there's a way to figure things out and you're willing to put the work in, you're going to find a way to make it happen. And this goes for anything in your life. If you're unhappy in any aspect of your life, there are mindset shifts and strategic, actionable steps you can take to move out of that fear mode and into action mode, because there is a way to figure everything out. Now, to sum up this episode, there are 3 big buckets that are stopping many people from stepping out of their comfort zones to create new opportunities and create new paths for themselves. And those buckets are, number 1, financial worries. Number 2 are logistical things like benefits and healthcare. And bucket number 3 is that fear of the unknown and fear into stepping out to do something different. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, what resonates with you, and if you are a teacher who is wanting to leave the classroom, I would love to hear which one of these buckets or categories is stopping you. I absolutely love connecting, and I will make sure to place all of the info to get in touch in the show notes. So until next time, stay well and stay healthy, and I'll see you back here for another episode next week. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Classroom. If you know something has to change and you're ready to take the next step to make it happen, whether it's in or out of the classroom, let's talk it through together. Schedule a no-obligation chat with me and we can talk through where you're stuck, how to get you unstuck, and how to keep you moving forward. Schedule your free call today by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to connect with you.